Welcome everyone to the PeopleSoft and Oracle Cloud Infrastructure Lunch and Learn. We're glad that you're here this morning. I'm going to start with today's agenda. A quick round of introductions, and we're going to talk about Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, platform and differentiation, PeopleSoft and OCI, true business value, viable use cases, local Pacific Northwest, a lot of the success stories that we've had out here, and then PeopleSoft Cloud Manager one-on-one. My name is Marcus Bodie. I'm the president and also the founder of SpearMC Consulting. Joining me today is Cameron McClure, managing director out of Seattle, and Tom Tretter, managing director out of Portland. A little bit about SpearMC. So we're coast to coast. Founded here on the West Coast, offices in San Francisco. That's where we started in 2004, and we've moved our way east, most recently opening an office just this past month in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. A little bit about SpearMC, Oracle Platinum Partner. We specialize in all things PeopleSoft. Managed services, implementations, upgrades, new modules, PeopleSoft PeopleTools training, PeopleSoft on OCI, test framework, PeopleSoft PUM update, and testing as a service.
All right, hello everyone. My name is Deepak Manjal. I'm an alliance consultant for Oracle. I've been with the company for about 2 years, and I want to talk to you about Oracle Cloud Infrastructure and how it really differentiates from other cloud service providers in the marketplace, and what's so unique about what we're trying to accomplish. Let me also start by saying everything we discuss here is maybe forward-looking, and obviously nothing's committed to. There's a standard safe harbor statement we put in front of every presentation. So, what was our accomplishment, or what was our goal in trying to create a cloud service we call Oracle Cloud Infrastructure? The goal was to really target enterprise applications, ERP, PeopleSoft, and other applications that we build at Oracle, but build on what's already been occurring in the marketplace around cloud. If you look at the cloud service providers over the last 5 or say 10 years, the real goal, what we call first generation cloud, was to provide customers with a way to build a data center environment that was elastic, that allowed them to pay for what they use, provided scale, and was very easy to use. Again, this is a very commonplace occurrence today, but it's hard to remember that this was something that wasn't easily possible. What we want to do with OCI is build upon that. And we feel like certain enterprise applications, specifically ERP and other mission critical type applications, require a little bit more around performance, around economics, and especially around security. So when we look at everything that we want to accomplish with what we call Gen 2 cloud, is to build a cloud environment that's not just for applications for customers that are building applications such as test dev or other types of smaller applications. These are applications that run your business, and they require a certain kind of performance and security that only we can provide. So you may not have heard of what we've been accomplishing over the last few years, but suffice to say we've got a very, very large footprint today. We've got, as of September this year, 16 regions that are live across the world, and we plan to grow 20 more. So even though we are a late entrant into this space, we are moving very aggressively. We've got data centers in almost every region in the world, and we also have a partnership with Microsoft Azure, which I'll describe later. But again, for enterprise applications that require the best performance, the highest availability, you'll see our region footprint is second to none. So let me talk a little bit about these differentiators and what makes OCI so unique. I'm going to start with performance. One of the benefits of being late to this game is that we can learn a lot from the experiences of the other providers. And what we found out is we can build an architecture that's superior in performance across the board. And I'll show you some data to back that up. One of our first offerings was something called OCI Bare Metal. And with this concept, we remove the entire virtualization layer. the compute virtualization as well as the network virtualization, and allow our customers to run their workloads directly on the hardware that we provide. The reason we started with this offering first is because we have a large database, customer base, as you can imagine. And for those types of customers, they wanted the most powerful level of performance that they can get without any bottlenecks due to the virtualization layer. So that was one of our earliest offerings. It was a differentiator at the time. No one else offered anything like it. And it really attracted a lot of our first customers to the OCI platform. Obviously, since then, we support virtual machines for more traditional workloads. We've added GPU capabilities from NVIDIA, local storage options, block storage options. But as I'll walk you through it, we made design decisions on every single one of these components to ensure the highest level of performance. And we can back that up with quite a few third-party independent studies that have shown that OCI performs best, and especially for Oracle workloads. The other thing, when we designed our network, we wanted to build upon this concept of no noisy neighbors. One of the downsides of cloud, obviously there's a lot of benefits to a cloud environment, but one of the downsides is that you do share your infrastructure with other customers and other applications. So there's always a risk of one of those applications using up that infrastructure, whether it's compute or networking or storage, and affecting your application. And we were very, very careful to prevent this issue from ever happening. We went in and designed the network infrastructure to have no oversubscription, very low latency, and as I'll walk you through, I'll talk to you about our virtualization capability that ensures that a noisy neighbor will not affect your workload. We've built on that now. Because some of our customers require even higher levels of performance, we offered a new capability called the RDMA cluster, which offers even lower latencies. So if you have specific applications around GPU workloads or HPC workloads, we've got an offering that offers really the best in market latency. So storage review, an independent third party did a review on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure performance. They looked at our bare metal offering as well as our flash and compared it to AWS's equivalent. And for every workload, Microsoft SQL, Oracle Database, VDI, even mixed workloads, Oracle performed better. We can make a copy of this presentation. There's a link available at the bottom of the slide. It really showcases the capabilities when you measure performance across the board. So that's a little bit on performance. Later on, I will talk to you a little bit about each of the components and specifically how we achieve the level of performance we do. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about the economics. Another factor that we really considered when we built OCI, and to be honest, if we are going to attract some existing customers who have already chosen a competitive vendor for cloud service, we have to attract them not just with performance, but with a better price. So our goal was price performance would be the best in the industry, and we backed that up with quite a few third-party tools as well as other ROI calculators where you can see that each of our offerings are much lower priced than the competition. So again, we looked at each one of our components, our VMs, bare metal, block storage, bandwidth, and in each case, we have priced our offering 30 to 50% lower from a TCO perspective than AWS or even on-prem. Another major differentiator with OCI is we have a single price globally. We don't change prices depending on the region. If you're in Europe or Asia Pac, we have a consistent pricing model, and it's priced across the board exactly the same. And again, this is targeted towards enterprise customers who do have a multinational footprint. And for those types of customers, they want a consistent pricing methodology. They don't want to be surprised with different prices when they open a new application in a different part of the world, and suddenly they have to pay more than they're used to. So we make that very, very easy. The other thing that Oracle provides is something called universal credits. So if you're already an Oracle customer, you're already leveraging a database or other applications like PeopleSoft, you are already getting credits for that purchase. And you can use these universal credits for OCI infrastructure services. So whether you want to use these credits just to do some test and development, sandbox, POCs, you have maybe 6 months, maybe a year, depending on how much time and how much infrastructure you want to use to better understand the capabilities of Oracle infrastructure before you dive in with a production workload. So this gives you a lot of freedom to build out your infrastructure environment without forcing you to spend a lot of money up front. So I'm not going to walk you through each of these points, but as you can see here, we were very aggressive on how we price all of our components for OCI, whether it's virtual machine instances, bare metal, GPU instances, or block storage, our internet egress. All of these are priced very, very aggressively to beat the competition, and we continually update our prices to make sure that we do maintain that differentiation. So I invite you all to look at your infrastructure requirements. We've got ROI calculators that we can help you walk through. SpearMC can help you walk through this as well. But it gives you an idea of the amount of money you can save, whether you're on-prem or at a competitive cloud service provider to migrate to OCI. And again, as I mentioned, we've got the single pricing across the globe. So where you may see a 49% advantage here in the US, the advantage grows even higher if you have Asia Pac or European or Latin American requirements. The numbers grow even more because generally the competitors price their infrastructure much higher across the globe. Now let's talk a little bit about TCO. And this is where I think the differentiation increases even more. So whether you're looking at EBS workloads, PeopleSoft workloads, or even your custom applications, we've got some analysis that we find that as you go through a 5-year TCO window, you'll find greater, not just infrastructure costs, but licensing costs and other types of expenses will be 38 to 52% less than what you're spending today. So when you do build these universal credits, you can use them any way you want across our entire set of capabilities. Whether you want to use it for infrastructure, platform as a service, whether you want to use it as pay-as-you-go, where there's no upfront commitment and only pay for what you use, that's available to you. Or you can sign a contract and reserve a certain amount of usage and commit to it, giving you some savings, whether it's between 33 and 60% compared to what you might pay on pay-as-you-go. We typically require a 1-year minimum and a certain amount of commitment on spend. But most of our customers find that once they're in OCI, they like it and they grow the business and they grow their consumption. So typically a monthly flex makes a lot of sense for most of our enterprise customers. Now all of this leads to a certain level of coverage that we offer with our SLA. If you do go to the competition, you typically do get availability SLAs, meaning they guarantee that their network, their compute, their storage will be available, meaning you can access it for a certain amount of time or a certain level of nines. And if they don't, they certainly have a way to provide you a credit. With OCI, we're the only one in the industry that provides not only an availability SLA, but also performance and manageability. And there's a reason why we can offer this. And as I said earlier, we designed each of these components to guarantee a certain level of performance. And with that guarantee, we can provide an SLA that gives you that level of performance. If we don't offer that same level of performance, again, we will offer you credits accordingly. But again, we're the only ones that offer this. And we took this coverage very seriously as an eye to our customer base that requires that kind of level of performance and availability for their mission critical applications. So with that said, that's sort of an overview of our overall capabilities on our performance and our economics. Let me now walk you through specific offerings and where we created value as well as performance. So before I go into each of them, let me talk a little bit about our overall breadth of capability and services. Again, even though we are late to this market, we do have a full offering from compute, storage, networking, cloud-native offerings like containers and Kubernetes. We've got full data movement features for storage migration from your on-prem environment, whether it's through the network, a VPN, or even through a hardware appliance. Obviously, we've got a great database offering, being the database company. Database as a service is available for most of our applications. So whether it's autonomous or database as a service, we have a full breadth of capabilities. I also want to mention automation capabilities. We use Terraform to help you automate all of your infrastructure requirements. We've got full APIs with all third-party tools. So without a doubt, we have a complete offering that is equal to what's available in the marketplace today. And as you saw earlier in my presentation, we also have a full set of regions across the globe. So wherever your application requirements are, we can meet you there. So let me start with compute. Again, as I mentioned, we started out with a bare metal offering that was unique in the industry. It gives you the highest level of performance with no virtualization layer in between. We do have VMs for more traditional and generic workloads, but in each of these cases, we offer the highest level of performance. And here's one way we do it. Where you typically look at a shared compute environment from our competitors, they only sell what's called a vCPU or a virtual CPU, and that's typically one thread of one core in the hardware environment. So if you're offered a server and you're sharing that VM, you'll be offered, at a minimum, a single vCPU which shares one thread, and you can grow from there. Well, at Oracle, we give you the entire core. We call it an OCPU, an Oracle CPU. That single core is dedicated to your workload or your application, and that is the minimum building block that we offer at OCI. So right off the bat, you get twice the level of performance, and we offer that OCPU at the same cost or lower than the vCPU. So you get twice the performance at a much lower cost. And there's a reason we do it this way. If you want a certain level of guaranteed performance, you want that core dedicated to your application. You don't want to share that core with other applications where you might be impacted if that other application ends up using the majority of the core. So this way you get guaranteed performance because your application has a dedicated core all to itself. Of course, we offer the full breadth of hardware capabilities out there. We partner with Intel Xeon. We've got an AMD EPYC chipset if you want higher performance at lower cost. And of course, we also have GPUs for those high demanding HPC type workloads. So when it comes to storage, we did the same thing. We looked at the requirements for enterprise applications and the level of performance that's required, and we chose to go with an entirely all SSD design. So again, one of the benefits of being late is we can leverage the latest technologies, and we went with end-to-end SSD. One reason why we did this offers the best performance, lowest latency of storage, and very predictable across all your workloads. Where other vendors typically have tiered levels of storage, where they have a basic tier, are using maybe rotational disk, and if you want higher performance, you have to pay for SSD. At Oracle, you get SSD as the base configuration. It's available end-to-end in every region, so you very much guarantee the level of performance across the board. And as I mentioned earlier, I talked about the SLA. We can guarantee storage performance because we use SSD across the board. We can guarantee compute performance because we can guarantee that that core is dedicated to your application. And when it comes to networking, it's the same thing. We can guarantee a certain level of network performance because we don't oversubscribe our network. So if you have a virtual machine and you purchase it and you're guaranteed 1 gig of bandwidth, you will get that full gig of bandwidth because we don't oversubscribe at the edge or in the core, so you're always going to get the level of performance in networking. Same as with compute, and the same goes for storage. The other thing that we do that's unique in the industry is we do not charge for egress. So if you're going to pull your data in, which typically most providers do allow you to migrate data into their cloud service for free, typically they charge as you pull data out on a per gigabyte basis. At Oracle, we don't charge for the first 10 terabytes per month. For the majority of our customers, that is basically and effectively free network access. So that really changes the economics of how you pay for the network inside a cloud service. Of course, we offer full capabilities around our VCN. You can slice and dice your subnets to recreate the exact same security model you have and the segmentation model you have inside your on-premise environment. We offer a full set of capabilities around load balancing, DNS, web application firewalls, a full suite of services that give you everything that you need. We also partner with third parties like Palo Alto Networks, Fortinet, and others that provide virtual security capabilities that run on top of OCI. So if you have a partnership with some of these third parties in your on-prem environment, you can carry them over into OCI. From a governance perspective, we give you full capabilities on how you do accounting, billing. We allow you to segment your environment into compartments for different workloads and for different kinds of access. So if you have a large enterprise environment and a large enterprise administration team, you can slice and dice administrative capabilities for networking, security, compute, and storage, full control, full auditing and monitoring. So all of that capability that you're used to today in your on-prem environment is available in OCI. So let me talk a little bit about security. And again, this is another area that we focused very, very carefully on, because one of the first questions that we get when we migrate not just test dev environments or applications, but critical workloads, HR data, financial data, which is predominantly what our customer base uses at Oracle. One of the first questions they ask is, how do you manage security? How do you guarantee that my data, once I move it into a shared environment, is secure, not just at rest, but also in motion through the network? So one of the first decisions we made was to not use a network virtualization layer in our virtual machines and in our hosts. So typically, and it's a low-cost approach to do it, typically first-generation clouds today still use this model, where you have a host running the operating system and then a virtualization layer that provides network virtualization, segmentation, security, VLANs, and so on. That's typically running on that same machine. So that means that if you have multiple virtual machines running on that host, conceivably they could get access, if it was hacked, to share data across those virtual machines. Not only that, this is a performance bottleneck where some of those virtual machines could become a noisy neighbor and use up all of that pipe or all of that capability in the network. What we have done is we've decided to move that entire network virtualization feature into hardware off the box. So it's not part of the software, it's not running as a virtual image, it's not running in the VM or the hypervisor, it is outside the device. So you get two benefits with this. One is performance. You have hardware level performance. So if you have a VM running full speed networking and that could affect the CPU, in this kind of environment or this kind of architecture, you don't have that problem. All of that is done in hardware, so you get full line rate. The second benefit is it separates that entire virtual machine as a separate tenant outside the box. So anytime the hypervisor or the operating system gets hacked, you have full separation across the device. So again, this is available end to end from every region that we offer. Our last bit of differentiation is around database. Oracle being a database company, you would expect that we would have a full set of offerings for database. You can run your Oracle database on our compute, whether it's bare metal or VM, basically bringing your database over and managing it yourself. Or you could decide, I don't want to be in the database management business anymore. You can run Oracle Database Cloud Service, basically database as a service, where we manage the database, we upgrade it, we back it up, we maintain it, we patch it, and all you have to do is manage the data, your indexes, and your queries. We provide all of the capabilities around redundancy and availability for you. If you have higher levels of performance, you can move up to Oracle Exadata, which is our engineered system, which provides the highest level of performance in the industry. You can run that in our cloud, but we also offer you the capability of running Exadata at your customer site. We call that Clouded Customer. If you have financial regulations, HR regulations, or other reasons to run your application on-prem, you can run it on-prem and we will do the management for you. Recently, we've announced new offerings for our database around autonomous, whether it's autonomous warehousing or autonomous transaction. We have this ability where you can manage and have a fully managed database offering without committing to any hardware resources. This is a very huge upgrade to what's available in the industry. Fully autonomous, auto-scaling, auto-tuning, auto-patching, pretty much automates the entire database environment. And this is fast becoming the standard in ways to offer database services. So I walked you through an overview of our goals and our methods of building a Gen 2 world-class cloud infrastructure service. I also walked you through some of the features of products around compute, networking, and storage, and how we differentiate and how we achieve the level of performance and economics. Let me walk you through now a set of customers that have accomplished that migration and some of the benefits that they enjoyed. So let me talk a little bit about the benefits of migrating PeopleSoft to the cloud, to Oracle Cloud. Generally, you'll achieve a total cost of ownership. Oh, looks like, let me start over. So you've heard a little bit about our Oracle differentiators, what our goals were around performance and economics. I also walk you through some of the differentiators around each of the components, compute, storage, networking. Let me give you a few examples on how customers have benefited from migrating to OCI from their on-prem environments. Let me specifically talk about PeopleSoft. In most examples, compared to on-prem or other cloud environments, you'll enjoy a much higher TCO, 38 to 52% lower TCO, much higher levels of performance. We've seen reporting speeds of 2 to 10x level of improvement if you're in the bare metal space. Moving to a cloud environment, you remove all your single points of failure. And migration, obviously we know our applications better than anyone. We've got tools, best practices to allow you to migrate your data in weeks, if not lower. So the first one I want to talk to you about is a nonprofit that migrated their PeopleSoft environment. What they found, and this is a case study, 90% reduction in production costs and 50% time savings reduction in day-to-day management. All their new environments are easily set up in one click to spin up a new environment. So as they grow, they can make that change much easier than they did before. We had another customer, Covanta, a waste management company, that also migrated PeopleSoft from on-prem to OCI, and they found a 2x improvement in performance. It took them 2 months to migrate their entire PeopleSoft dev environment, the dev QA and production environment. And with our networking VCN capabilities, it gives them the same level of network security that they had on-prem. And then we added a capability to leverage web application firewalls to protect PeopleSoft from malicious web traffic. A third case study, Alliance Data, migrated their entire PeopleSoft, Hyperion, and OBIEE to the cloud. They had multiple data centers on-prem, and they migrated all those and consolidated to 2 Exadata quarter racks down from 3. So instead of managing 6 environments, they migrated to 1, and they found this migration entirely in less than 6 months. So as you can see, there's a lot of savings and opportunity in migrating your PeopleSoft workloads to the cloud. Improved performance, much better economics, lower costs, and higher availability and security to come with it. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about 2 announcements we made just this past few months at Oracle Open World. We announced 2 new partnerships. One is with VMware. And what this allows is for you to take your existing VMware workloads, whether they're on-prem or in other locations, and let's say you want to maintain your VMware environment, your VMware architecture, your networking and compute architecture, ESX, NSX, and the like, and you want to maintain that. You don't want to go through the trouble of migrating workload by workload into a cloud environment, but you want to maintain that VMware environment. We allow, through this partnership, allow you to literally take your VMware stack, your VMDKs, and migrate them to OCI completely as they are, and maintaining that level of infrastructure and maintaining that management platform, allowing joint support between the two companies. So if you want to get out of your on-prem data center but maintain VMware, we allow that capability. The second announcement we made is a partnership with Microsoft. And what we decided to do and what we decided to build is a cloud cross-connect in all of our regions. So we initially started in Herndon, and we were also building one in the Bay Area with more to come. But basically this allows you to create workloads that span both environments. So if you have some applications that live on Azure and others that live in OCI, you can combine them together to act like they are living in one data center with the highest level of network performance. We provide federated identity services and joint support as well. So if you do have applications, maybe an application that runs in Microsoft, but a database that runs in Oracle, or vice versa, with SQL Server and say PeopleSoft, we give you that full breadth of capability to run your workloads across both environments. So with that, I want to thank you for your time, and appreciate your attendance. Thanks.
As mentioned, my name's Cameron McClure. I'm from Seattle, and I manage the Seattle projects in the Northwest. Been with SpearMC since last year, and I'm happy to say that we're doing some really great work with PeopleSoft and OCI, and I also manage our Oracle EPM practice as well. Some of the questions that we like to ask our organizations that we talk to with respect to their cloud readiness, every organization is different on their journey, and so we like to ask these types of questions. For example, are you a cloud first and only? Meaning we're going to have zero infrastructure on-prem, we're going to have minimize our IT staff, we're going to move all towards applications in the cloud, SaaS applications, et cetera. That's one model. The other extreme end is on-prem. We license our products, we want to control those products, we don't want to move to the cloud, we're not ready to move to the cloud. And then there's sort of every variation in between. We're dipping our toes where it makes sense. Certain things we're moving to cloud, some things we're keeping on-prem, which is quite honestly the majority of the people that we talk to. Is there organizational alignment with what the cloud actually means? Most organizations I talk to, there might be a high degree of understanding within certain areas of the organization about what the cloud actually means. But there's actually a lot of misinformation out there as well, and a lot of misunderstandings about what the cloud is. You might have an IT group that is very interested in certain types of things like infrastructure as a service. But there might also be other areas that are interested in SaaS. So is there organizational alignment? If there's not, this is an area for your organization to consider trying to get alignment before you start to map out your cloud strategy. What's the state of your disaster recovery plans? Perhaps you don't have disaster recovery plans. This is something to consider. Cloud computing in general and PeopleSoft and OCI, there is a big differentiator here with respect to disaster recovery, and we'll talk about that. In the PeopleSoft instances, can you easily spin up databases? Can you pull together a test database? If the business needs to do some testing, and can you just say, hey, let's get a test database, and can you do that? Or is that actually a lot of work? Or is it so much work that it just, let's not do that, let's just reuse that test database over there? This is something that is a non-factor once you move to PeopleSoft and OCI. Lastly, are you regularly checking the updates that are coming out on a quarterly basis through PeopleSoft Update Manager? This is somewhat difficult on-prem. People are doing it, but installing every release of the latest and greatest, Image 34 just came out for financials. Do you have image 34? If not, PeopleSoft and OCI allows us to bring that in automatically, to regularly evaluate those, and the customers that are on OCI get that advantage automatically. So let's talk about a couple of customers. First one we want to highlight in the Northwest, here's a bank here in Seattle that had a challenge. They were on another financial accounting solution from another provider. It was actually a software as a service. And it was kind of the bad version of software as a service, where they had a lack of visibility to the data, they had a lack of control over the environments and the roadmap of the application, and security was also a factor for consideration. It wasn't strong enough. They wanted to solve these problems. We worked with them and First Financial and talked to them about putting PeopleSoft directly on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure as a net new customer to Oracle, a net new customer to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We said, let's not even talk about on-prem servers. In fact, they didn't want to talk about on-prem servers. They didn't have them. They didn't want them. We said, let's just put it straight onto Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And that's what we did. We built a new solution directly on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Here's some of the results we achieved. 4-month implementation. With respect to when we said, okay, from your perspective, what are the biggest advantages about this implementation for you? Here's some of the things that we heard. Time-saving, consolidated reporting with automatic tracking of payables and receivables. That's sort of the PeopleSoft functionality aspect of it. Streamlined approval process, stringent internal controls, enhanced reporting capabilities, obviously improved system performance and scalability. And then they get the continuous patching enhancements with the Oracle, with PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. So they really view this almost like a SaaS. For them, it is a software as a service. They do not have in-house infrastructure. They have very little in-house IT support staff. We are supporting them completely as if PeopleSoft is a software as a service for them, and they love it. Let's talk about Children's as well. Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. They came to us wanting to look at their current PeopleSoft. They actually were a PeopleSoft on-prem customer, and they were concerned about their hardware and software, the current state of patching and the level of technical support they were getting with their current hardware. They felt like they were at this inflection point and wanted to talk to us about what would it look like to move that to cloud infrastructure. We came up with sort of a custom solution for them, which combined both functional guidance as well as technical guidance as well as system administrative. We came in, we trained them at the beginning on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We developed a custom content for them to really empower them to understand how Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is different, how it works, how PeopleSoft works on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. We worked with them to really empower them to do that. And then we supported them through the lift and shift process. Results achieved. Modern cloud-based infrastructure platform with a fully trained team. In that case, they didn't want to approach it like a software as a service, as our previous customer that I mentioned did. These guys really wanted to take what they had internal, which was a lot of PeopleSoft knowledge, and they wanted to modernize that and evolve that to really be supported on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, and we supported them in doing that. All right, let's talk just generally, let's talk about Cloud Infrastructure 101. I've been using terms like infrastructure as a service or software as a service, and what does that really mean? Well, in general, as you move from your own software on your servers to software as a service, there's variations of that, and as you move from, in this case, left to right, you're talking really about more and more management as a service. So instead of you owning your application, your data, your runtime, OS, server, storage, networking, as you move towards cloud, you're talking about moving more and more of those components like virtualization, servers, and storage to a service. So as an infrastructure service, you do not have to manage the networking and the storage. You just basically decide which options you want to use with respect to those types of things, servers and storage. And as you move beyond that to platform and eventually to software as a service, if you decide to do that, you're talking about complete management by an outside vendor. There's also a level of control that is sort of inversely correlated to this. So as you move left to right, you are giving up control of your application. In some cases, that can be a good thing. We advocate the concept of giving up the control of the infrastructure because that's something, as you can use infrastructure from Oracle in this case, that's something that you don't necessarily need to be good at. You don't need to have in-house folks who are really good at infrastructure. That should be a commodity, and it should be something that you get a lot of advantage by moving to the cloud. So let's talk about that. Study that was highlighted in this article here from Information Week recently talked about cloud spending in general. And in general, what they're seeing the trend is an acceleration of the spend. Now, what does that mean? So 2018 and before, the largest percentage of that spend was for SaaS. And that makes sense. Things like Office 365 and other types of SaaS solutions makes perfect sense. By 2022, that number will be up to 28% of IT budgets will be spent on the cloud, as is predicted from this article. And really, the biggest shift will be towards infrastructure. No longer SaaS, it'll be infrastructure. There's a logical reason for this. Infrastructure has a life cycle, generally 4-5 years life cycle for your infrastructure. And when you get to the point where you need to replace that infrastructure, that's the time we need to make the decision to potentially move to infrastructure as a service. And that's what we're seeing, that life cycle will come to an end and it will be time to evaluate that. And now is the time to consider this, especially with OCI Gen 2 technology. It is the right time to be considering OCI for your PeopleSoft platform. So let's talk a little bit about the problems that exist on-prem and why people are looking at cloud infrastructure. Typical scenarios on-prem, first off, you've got over-provisioning. So it's typical when you implement PeopleSoft or any ERP on-prem, you think about playing it safe and building for future growth. You say, well, what are we going to look like in 2-3 years? Let's make sure we've got enough space for that, right? You don't want to build infrastructure and then immediately be out of space. So you build for the future. And so what that really means in cloud computing would be if you took that same concept into cloud computing, you'd be missing the point. You'd be over-provisioning, you'd be paying for infrastructure that you're not using, and quite frankly, it might end up being a larger investment of cash than even on-prem, if you take that approach. So you don't want to take that approach. When you get to the point where your needs outweigh the actual infrastructure, you can then be under provision, and that's also a problem, of course. And it makes sense too, because the lack of provision, the lack of monitoring tools on-prem footprints, it really leads to the inability to detect and to respond to degraded performance. And so users will, for your application, will start to respond that the application is not performing, and DBAs, system administrators, will attempt to make changes to that. But typically we see this type of cycle, and this is probably something that's similar to what you've seen in your organization, where if you're on on-prem infrastructure, you typically size it the right way, but eventually your needs outweigh that infrastructure, and you see degraded performance. So you have the stairstep model where you add additional infrastructure, and then you're over capacity for a certain amount of time until you're back to under capacity. And cloud computing really allows you to really right-size and not have to build for the future. You right-size your infrastructure, and the elasticity and agility of the cloud infrastructure allows you to right-size and really grow that as you need it, expand it as you need it. And by doing that, then you really can truly realize an ROI in this move to the cloud. So let's talk about Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You heard a little bit before from Deepak about this. We're going to talk about a couple of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure components that are important to understand if you're going to move to your PeopleSoft instance. The first most important one is the compute service. Think of this as your servers. So you get to decide on VM or bare metal. You get to decide on the performance, scalability, all the way up to high performance. Price, of course, varies between these different things. And you get to decide Windows versus Linux. And it makes a lot of sense to run PeopleSoft on Linux, and that we see that a lot. Although you might have to have a Windows instance to support things like PeopleTools and Envision or other applications that rely on Office, Microsoft Office. The shape, another term that Oracle Cloud Infrastructure uses. The shape defines your processing power. So how much processing power do you want to subscribe to? Storage. Again, storage should be considered something that maps the performance needed of the storage to the cost. You don't want to have high performing storage for archive data that you never really need to access. You wouldn't want to do that, right? And we do unfortunately see some organizations using very, very costly storage to handle archive and other types of data that's infrequently leveraged. So block storage is like a mounted drive. It's connected to your compute service and it allows for a wide range of performance. But you also have this object storage, which is a lower cost storage, lower performing, but it's much lower cost. And so we see that used for obviously archives, backups, and other types of storage. With database, you get a couple of options here. You can bring your own, starting at the bottom, you can bring your own license, which we see a lot of people who have been longtime Oracle customers often bring their own license. Other organizations are considering this database as a service. As you heard earlier, the database as a service allows you to essentially subscribe to the service, to essentially not have to worry about upgrades, patching, all of that. Database as a service is really a great service to consider, especially if you consider the roadmap for Oracle databases moving more towards autonomous patching and autonomous performance tuning. That type of thing is really pretty exciting, especially in PeopleSoft instances where, for all of us that have been doing PeopleSoft for a while, you are constantly trying to add indexes and things of that nature to different pages or data sets that are slow performing. So the idea of autonomous database and autonomous patching is really exciting, and that's where Oracle is going with their database service. All right, so let's talk a little bit about comparison of terminology. So on-prem to OCI, so we got servers, compute instance, that's basically the same thing, mounted drives, that's block volume. Database, you've got database service or bring your own license. Backup storage, very equivalent to object storage. And then load balancing is also available. There are some terms that are different, and so let's talk about those. So here's just a few of them. Virtual cloud network. So the concept of virtual cloud network is kind of a customizable and private network that allows you to segregate whatever components you want to within a network. And this allows you to really isolate and protect different aspects from one and another. So that's kind of one of the unique things. Containers allow you to virtualize an entire application, entire stack of the application, the front end, the middleware, the back end, the database. All that can be basically componentized or containerized, and then brought from one area to another within the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. That containerization is something that is very easy to do. It's not something necessarily we see a lot in the PeopleSoft world, but again, it's the type of thing that you get access to once you move to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Regions and availability domains. There are two main regions in the United States. It's Phoenix and Ashburn, Virginia. Within those two regions, there's 3 availability domains, which is you can think of as separate, isolated data centers within those regions. That allows you to very quickly do things like backup from have your main production environment on one availability domain and backup to a second availability domain. If there's consideration for physical disaster recovery, then you can move to the other region from Phoenix to Virginia or vice versa. Very easy to do with the availability domain, or sorry, with the regions and the availability domains. The last service we'll talk about is Fast Connect. Fast Connect is almost like the traditional T1 connection from your on-prem data center to somewhere out in the internet. So Fast Connect allows you to connect your on-prem environment, whether that's a billing system or some other system that you connect into PeopleSoft. You can do that through Fast Connect. Fast Connect comes in two flavors, 1 gigabit per second and 10 gigabit per second. Great options for when you have a lot of back and forth between on-prem environment, on-prem applications, and your PeopleSoft instance on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Okay, so two main ways to buy Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. You can use pay-as-you-go, which is exactly what it sounds like. You pay in arrears, and there's no discounting. You can spin up an environment, you can spin up a server, and spin it back down. You're not paying at all when you spin that back down. All right. It's great when you first want to dip your toes in. Maybe you want to try out this new PeopleSoft Cloud Manager thing, figure out what it looks like. You want to spin something up, pay for the service as you use it, and then spin it back down. The second is when you're ready to commit to some type of longer-term commitment to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Then you're going to be considering this concept of monthly flex. That allows you to buy these universal credits that allow you to really buy these credits and then use them anywhere across all the different services. It does have discounting when you do go to a monthly flex commitment. And it does require a $1,000 a month commitment. That's not a lot. It's $12,000 a year, and that will allow you then to tap into discounting features. This price comparison is, I think, the same numbers we looked at earlier with Deepak. So I'm gonna jump through this, but bottom line is, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure is great value for the performance. So from a price perspective and performance, we feel it's where we're spending our time, it's where we're investing in, because we feel it provides the best value to our customers. All right. So let's move on to PeopleSoft and OCI. So what services are needed? Well, at a minimum, you're going to need compute service, storage, and networking. These are the basic components of Oracle Cloud Infrastructure that you need to put up a PeopleSoft database. I often bring in database as well as a service, because that is something that some people, as we've talked about, some of our customers are considering database as a service. But you don't have to. If you bring your own license, you're going to bring your own license and just put your Oracle database on the compute service, on a server. So what's the differentiator? Why do we even talk about this? What's the point? The point is PeopleSoft and OCI, it is different. There are differentiators. First and foremost, PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. We're going to talk a little bit about that here in a second. But PeopleSoft Cloud Manager is the killer app. It's the differentiator. You can't do it on Azure. You can't use Cloud Manager on AWS. And you can't use it on-prem. It only comes on the cloud and on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And it is a game changer for your management of your PeopleSoft environments. As Deepak mentioned before, there is an end-to-end warranty on availability, performance, and manageability with respect to PeopleSoft and OCI. You won't see that anywhere else. You won't see that PeopleSoft on AWS or PeopleSoft on Azure. And you, quite frankly, don't see it with any other competing ERPs either. This is something that reflects the confidence that Oracle has in their Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And we are, as I mentioned, we have the confidence as well to bring this out to people. There are some platforms as service tool sets that you do get access to within Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. This works in a model where you do a lot of development, maybe non-PeopleSoft development. You want to build other types of applications that are non-PeopleSoft applications, and you want to connect them into PeopleSoft. So we see that from time to time. It's not really a main component of what we focus on, but it is available. It's nice to know that there is this platform as a service that you can leverage. And then lastly, the database service, which I've mentioned a couple times, but the database service is, again, a differentiator on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. Okay, so let's talk about Cloud Manager. So what is Cloud Manager? Cloud Manager is a separate PeopleSoft instance that you log into, just that works right alongside your financials or HCM instance. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager instance manages the other instances. Okay, so it is connected to the Oracle Marketplace and automatically gets all of the updates and features that come straight in, whether that's PUM updates, PeopleTools updates. It is automatically comes in within PeopleSoft Cloud Manager and allows you then to manage them there and deploy them out to your other instances, your other PeopleSoft instances. So it's another PeopleSoft instance to manage your other PeopleSoft instance, if we could say it that way. So what makes it a killer app? PeopleSoft Environment Lifecycle Automation. So it allows you to really manage the spinning up and spinning down of your PeopleSoft instances. No longer do you need to call your system administrator and ask when you can build that new test environment because you need to do some testing. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager allows you to make a template, as I mentioned there, a template of another test environment and spin that up into a new test environment. It's very easy to do. In fact, with PeopleSoft Cloud Manager 10, there's actually, it goes a step further with instant cloning, which is not only the entire shape, which is the server and the instance, but also the data as well. You want to spin up another test to test 2, and you want all the data to come with it. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager, which just came out here in December, it allows you to do that instant cloning. It's really a game changer. We talked about no download of images. The images, all of the updates are automatically pushed to you through a subscription model. And for anybody any system administrator that's watching this that has sat and looked at their computer as software updates are being downloaded from the internet, and goes and grabs coffee and then lunch and then another meeting and then comes back and it's still downloading, they'll know that this idea of subscription pushing updates to you is a real a game changer for them. So as mentioned, Cloud Manager manages the connection to your target environments. So it manages that connection and allows you to control those other environments through Cloud Manager. It does allow you to have this PUM dashboard. I have a couple images here that we'll show here in a second. But the dashboard's very easy to use, tile-based dashboard that allows you to manage your templates and your instances. And then, with this ability to do this instant cloning, you think of things like disaster recovery, reporting databases, archive databases. That essentially, when you take a lot of the effort out of those things, it changes your ability to execute on a strategy very quickly to manage your disaster recovery, or even just a simple reporting database that you just want to spin up and then spin down when you're done with it. All right. So the other aspect of that's really great about PeopleSoft Cloud Manager is this lift and shift utility. With their lift and shift utility within Cloud Manager, allows you really to keep everything you've got on-prem with respect to a PeopleSoft application. So we're talking about all the functionality configuration. We're talking about the extensions, the customizations that you have in that application. Even licenses, it captures all of that. It collects all of it, you push it up into the cloud, and you deploy it right there in the cloud. So not only do you get to keep all of those things that you actually did on-prem, but you actually get to shift them into cloud, and now you get these major gains with respect to lifecycle automation, lower costs and risks to do this. So it's really this lift and shift utility is really great. There are some requirements. So you can't lift and shift, let's say, a 9.1 environment or an environment that's on tools 8.5.1 or something like that. So there are some minimum requirements to do this. And we can talk to you about those types of requirements. But in general, if your environment is a candidate for this, it's as easy as taking this install package down onto on-prem, running the package, which collects all this information, the aspects of your database, puts it into essentially a zip file, and brings it up into the Cloud Manager. And as you can see here in the scripts running here in this top screenshot, and then you can see then in the bottom screenshot, it's a little hard to see, but you can see then that packaged zip file basically is brought back into your Cloud Manager, ready to then deploy into an actual application. So let's quickly. We're gonna watch this in action. So you can see here the PeopleSoft Cloud Manager dashboard. After clicking on the lift and shift tile, you can see several images that have been brought already into this environment using this lift utility zip utility file. So of these uplifted images that come from your on-prem applications, on-prem image, you have the ability to then take any one of those and then deploy it into an actual image on PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. So you can see here in this demonstration that by clicking on one of these environments, that here we have an HR environment, and they're going to say create environment from this one. Okay, so you're going to take that in, and they're going to walk you through. You'll notice what we in the functional world call an activity guide that walks you through just questions. What environment? How do you want to call this environment? What zone it's going to go in? Is this target database going to be on compute or database as service, as we talked about before? There's two options. What tools version do you want? Oh yeah, do you want to go to a new tools version? No problem. Just pick the new tools version and take that application that was on 8.5.5 and bring it into 8.5.6. Not a problem. And that's a really good time to actually consider doing that, is when you have a tools upgrade. You can just bring it right into the latest 8.5.7 or whatever you want to do. Here you can see the region. We talked about Ashburn, Virginia. Within Ashburn, you get to decide which availability domain you want to do. Again, on-prem, it's very difficult to do. You don't really have the concept of availability domains on-prem. But here, very easy. Just simply say, yep, let's put it on AD1 or AD2. We know that AD1 is going to be our main prod. AD2 is going to be our backup. Very easy to just make those choices. One of the great things in the latest Cloud Manager that they've been working on very hard is to make this process of lift and shift to be easier. One of the things they've done is done some pre-validation to capture things like passwords and user IDs. In the older version of the Cloud Manager, so older meaning a year ago, some of these things that you put in, IDs, passwords, you would go and run them, and then the process to create the environment would fail, and you'd have to go through logs to figure out why it failed. Well, it turns out you put the password in wrong. So they've spent a lot of time in trying to do pre-validation of those types of things to make sure that you don't have to go all the way through a log to figure out what failed. They're spending a lot of time on that type of pre-validation. So some of the problems or some difficulties, we should say, from prior PeopleSoft Cloud Manager instances are now solved. All right, I'm going to skip ahead here, and if possible, and we're going to see the end result after all of this happens, and we're going to see a new database instance. If I can figure out how to move this forward. We'll just skip ahead in the video because I can't figure out how to move this forward. It runs a couple, it's probably another minute or two. All right, so, what?
What's that playing?
It's just through PowerPoint, but because I'm in presenter mode, I don't have the slider to move it forward. It's like how many IDs and passwords can you see? You know. All right, so we've gotten to the point now where you can see that they've put all the IDs and passwords in correctly, and now they're ready to review and submit. And you can see here that they're moving from their on-prem right straight into in this case it was an 8.5.5.1.7 PeopleTools version. And you'll see here that the ShiftMe environment that they just asked to create is going right alongside their other environments, and the provisioning will take place over the course of a certain amount of time, and then you'll have an environment. Okay, so the ability to do tools, patching, and updates are really great. And there's two options here. You either just take an existing environment and tell it that you want to update to a patch or to the latest PeopleTools, or you can install another environment. So you can keep that environment. You say, I want to take this environment, create a new one in the latest PeopleTools release. So if you want to do both, you have both options there. So either just update in place or a clone environment. And it really becomes a push of a button. And while we watch this environment, watch this little demo of a PeopleTools update, you'll see how easy this is. I'll give a quick anecdote on this one. So as I mentioned, we have our customers who are on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure already. And literally for them to decide when to do a tools update is as easy as just timing it for some validation testing. There's not a lot of work where we say, well, it's going to be 3 weeks of work. I have other clients who are not on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, they're on-prem, and we are doing a lot of planning about their implementation because it's going to take multiple weeks to stand up new servers and put the latest PeopleTools patch on for them. And it really is weeks of work when you're on-prem or, quite frankly, on Azure or AWS to do PeopleTools patching. Here you can see this demo. They're moving from 856.02 to 856.6. And by just clicking on update, it's literally as easy as that. Do you want to patch it? And for anybody that's done PeopleTools patching before, you're saying, well, what about everything else that I used to have to do? Well, it can be automated, and that's what they're doing. And so you can see here, this PeopleTools patch is in progress. You can monitor it, or you can go and you'll see that there's the old PeopleSoft Home directory. You have the new PeopleSoft Home directory, and you will go get some coffee, and you'll come back, and your PeopleTools will be patched to the latest and greatest. It really is that easy, and it really is a game changer. All right, I'm going to move on. All right, so PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. They've been releasing 2 updates to Cloud Manager a year. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager version 10, image 10, just came out here in December. As you can see, they've been coming out 2 a year. We're on 10, so that takes us back roughly 4 to 5 years when this first started coming out. What that tells me is that there's a lot of investment that Oracle is placing on this. It doesn't need to tell me, I know this also from Oracle as well. They're putting a lot of investment in this concept of PeopleSoft Cloud Manager lifecycle automation. They understand that if PeopleSoft is going to be an application that stays updated and stays latest and greatest and really stays very agile for their customers, they need to spend time on this concept of keeping it updated, helping customers keep it updated. PeopleSoft Cloud Manager is doing that. When we look at the investment being placed here, 2 updates a year, when you're spending money to Oracle on your maintenance, you aren't simply spending $1 per ticket that you create. A lot of people think of it that way. What do you pay for PeopleSoft support? Well, that's one aspect of what you get when you pay for your maintenance. But a significant portion of the dollars you're going to Oracle are being spent on this PeopleSoft Cloud Manager and all of the features that are within the application that allow you to keep your application updated with the latest and greatest. So that's the real resonating fact here with PeopleSoft Cloud Manager. It's being updated. They're putting a lot of time and effort into it. And you can see some of the features that have come out here in the last couple images. In PeopleSoft Cloud Manager 10, the YouTube just dropped today. And we're happy to now be able to announce some of the highlights that are coming now in Image 10. So let me walk you through some of these latest and greatest image updates from 10. So first thing, Resource Manager. So Terraform has been a feature that's been available for the past few years, I believe. And Terraform is essentially a scripting a tool that allows you to script out the creation of infrastructure. So PeopleSoft using Cloud Manager, using Resource Manager, allows you now to leverage this Terraform to essentially build infrastructure through scripting. And so this takes the build out of infrastructure, makes it much, much faster than saying, well, I got to create my compute instance and I got to create the network and all this stuff. Resource Manager just manages all that for you and does it in a much more automated way. Cloud Manager itself, the PeopleSoft Cloud Manager instance will now be automatically upgraded and updated for you through Image because of the recent release of Image 10. Database support. So 12.1, 12.2, 18C, 19C, and now Exadata as well. Big improvement now to be able to support all of those databases with Image 10. PeopleTools 8.5.8 will be released first on Image 10, or on PeopleSoft Cloud Manager, I should say. It will not be released first and it will not be available for our on-prem customers. So all of those folks that we support on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, they will get access to the latest 8.5.8 tools when it's released. As we've seen with a lot of stuff that Oracle's doing, this is where they're taking customers. They want you to leverage their Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. They can certify it and support it on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure faster than they can certify it on every variation that might exist on-prem. That's why they are putting this stuff out there and making it available on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure first. And that's what's going to happen with 8.5.8. Fast cloning, I talked about that earlier. The ability to not only create a new instance, but actually clone the entire database, data and all. Bring it right over. Couldn't do that before Image 10. Now you can do it. Take the entire database, replicate it, not a problem. And then one that, being that Envision's near and dear to my heart, one of the great things about Image 10 and PeopleSoft Cloud Manager, it allows you now to have multiple Windows nodes, and it automates the Envision setup. And for anybody that's actually tried to use Envision on with a new instance, it's not always working right. And so you need to get somebody to go create it. So the ability to automatically create Envision using OpenXML, which means you don't have to have Excel running on your Windows box. Again, game changer here. And so we're really excited about that. So all in all, PeopleSoft on OCI, Cloud Manager really is the killer app. It's really a differentiator, although there's others, but really we like to talk to people about Cloud Manager and how that looks for people and why that's a game changer. And with that, thank you for your time and look forward to hearing from you.